Yes.
Come on, we're South Park. We can do it. Matt and Trey celebrating their $1.5 billion streaming deal with Paramount Plus, which recently merged with something for $8 billion, $1.5 billion of which was added to the balance sheet of Paramount, and apparently $1.5 billion of which went to Matt and Trey, who don't seem to be too worried about a libel suit related to this ad, because truth is the absolute defense against libel. And the only way that Trump could defend himself or prosecute a libel claim against Matt Stone and Trey Parker in South Park Park City Studios, whatever it is, for claiming that he has a small penis, is to whip it out and show us. Could whip it out. Now, as Bob Dylan said, sometimes even the President of the United States has to stand naked. That actually was prophetic for President Clinton, who did have to stand naked and to reveal his penis for the courts in the instance of the Monica Lewinsky situation. If you remember that Bill Clinton's dick was called as a witness to testify. And I don't think that Trump is going to be whipping it out anytime soon for this lawsuit. That is not going to happen. You are listening to Planet Waves FM. We are part of the Pacifica Radio Network. I'm Eric Francis Coppolino, your host for the next hour or so. Tonight's edition is for 7/25/25. Welcome to our program, wherever you may be in the world, in the future, or in your state of mind. It is good to be with you. And here we are. Another week has gone by, another weekend approaching, I guess, depending on when you are listening to this. It's one of those super thick, warm, muggy days here in the Catskill Mountains of New York State. It's kind of one of those days where you really want it to rain. But nonetheless, beautiful weather, and it is wonderful having a view of the stars many nights. This is something that I have been somewhat deprived of, living in a small city with tons and tons of light pollution. Now suddenly, I'm miles away from anything. There's not a town for 7 miles approximately on either side of me, and I look up and off in the distance up toward the north about 19 miles, and I don't really see very much about Albany, and it's like there's not a lot of light pollution coming out of Albany. There's really not that much there. Capital cities of states are often a little bit boring. Not all of them. Madison, Wisconsin, very nice town. But in the case of Albany, sometimes called Smallbany, it's a bigger than Kingston, the original capital of New York. So anyway, I've got a couple of things to talk to you about here. Beside the rising tide, I'm going to poke the hornet's nest of the flat Earth with a Westinghouse document and a discussion of document authentication. This pertains to my shows of recent weeks and also my Planet Waves article that I will include. The article called "You Were in Fact Lied To," that went out with last week's Thursday nights, the current edition of Planet Waves, talking about all of these internet memes that are like, that didn't happen and that didn't happen and that didn't happen. You were lied to about that. You were lied to about that. And George Washington never chopped down the cherry tree and said, "I cannot tell a lie. I didn't do it." And all of these essentially what amount to educational urban legends. That said, not not all things that you hear that would seem to be like, really, did that really happen? Like, did that really not happen the way we were told it happened? I mean, for example, note that in this article, which you can read, I left out the moon landing, and I left out the missing virus problem, because when you really look into the moon landing, you find problems. And when you look into the missing virus issue, you have problems. Anyway, that's a bit later in the show. I want to first just kind of give a shout out to you who may be exceedingly stressed out. We are living these needlessly, extraordinarily complicated lives where we're doing a lot of competing with ourselves and the people around us for attention, bandwidth, for like just the ability to pause, think, and reflect and feel. We're living our lives in nanoseconds. These like news feed, email feed, social media feed things are moving faster than a human can keep track of. I mean, I'm in a little bit of an unusual situation because I'm kind of organizing this hub of news and information moving, and I have to have a lot of subscriptions. But I tell you, I get up to make a cup of coffee, and I look at my inbox, and I don't recognize it from before I got up. So much has changed. So much has come in. But that's one angle on the stress. You know, the computers are supposed to be labor-saving devices. What they end up being is more like enslavement devices that have essentially created a world where it's necessary to be alert and like dealing with stuff essentially in every waking hour. I mean, I don't know if you remember back in the day when there used to be mail. Remember that? I know young people will not remember mail. I am sure there are many young people who have never received a letter or have only received one or two. Maybe your grandparents will still send you a birthday card. But the mail throughout my entire life used to come once a day. Way back, it came twice a day. There were 2 mail deliveries a day, especially in cities. There was a morning delivery and an evening delivery. And that was it. You got your mail, and the fact that it was on paper and delivered by somebody with a little wagon or a mailbag, that there's an origin to the term mailbag. You know, people wear them now. They're much smaller. Real mailbags are much bigger. Sometimes letter carriers were walking around with 40 pounds of mail slung across one of their shoulders. And some were not and are not allowed to use push carts for various reasons of security. In some places, it's not practical. But you had time to respond. And now we are expected to respond all the time. And this is the world that we live in. It is very stressful. What I see people doing are basically ignoring as much of this inbound communication as possible. That's not living. You may not be as free in your job to sit and study your email as I am. In my job, a very big part of what I do involves studying email. My inboxes and making sure that I've caught everything and responded to everything and know the status of every conversation, so I can put together programs like this, which some days might take like 5 or 10 people working on the program. I mean, I try to call them up on the phone, but that is just one angle. Like the pace of communication is just one angle that we're dealing with. It is the pace of everything moving at the speed of light, and the I think actual experience of being crowded out of our own lives. We're crowded out, pushed out of our own lives. This alone is stressful. Then there are the commitments. honestly, I don't know how parents do it. I mean, even two-parent households I know where there's just one kid, that is a lot of work, focus, and effort, especially in a time when you're not allowed to just leave kids alone to do their own thing, like they have to be driven everywhere. I was hardly ever driven anywhere. Now, I grew up in Brooklyn largely, and spent a lot of time in Manhattan. You get around. Kids learn very young how to get around, living in New York City and also living in any big city. And now the responsibilities of parenting are huge, coupled with this kind of around the clock work mentality, coupled with the kind of nonstop crisis that exists somewhere. There's like in many people's lives, there's enough people that there's always someone in a serious or modest crisis, even when you're not. Medical conditions can have an effect of taking over people's lives. Someone close to me said that she stopped dealing with the medical system. This involved a knee replacement that didn't go that well, and she said that since she stopped dealing with the medical system, her entire life has calmed down because she's not always driving from one appointment to the next. Sometimes one or two a week, and physical therapy, and now she's doing other things and actually feeling, it would seem, somewhat better. Her knee is healing, and that's an issue. And then there's just like this mystery stress. And I think that a lot of the mystery stress involves the plugged in feeling totally taking over. The like, if you're plugged in all the time, and I don't just mean to devices, I mean to the situations behind the devices that are coming through, you don't actually get any time to allow your nervous system to regulate itself. And I'll tell you, for as much as you see me getting done, part of the reason for that is I am able to, I know how to stop. And I had to learn how to do that. I'll tell you that. It was not a thing that I learned overnight. And also, I had to learn how to identify people who were causes of stress and get them as out of my life or as far away as possible. You may notice that Planet Waves has a much smaller staff. In some ways, this does present certain challenges. But one of the challenges with having a large staff and a lot of contractors, employees, is that it creates a real jam on bandwidth. There was a time Planet Waves had 10 writers. And I realized that the fact that we had 10 writers meant that we really were not paying adequate attention to my writing, which is very much the main attraction at Planet Waves. And so I let the writers go by attrition. When they were done, they were done. I let the contractors, with some exceptions, some had to be dispatched, but go by attrition. And very few people come into my home, and not everyone can do this. But I've been able to manage the stress level in my life largely by cutting back on the number of people and situations and making sure that I have recovery time. And so when people have children and complicated careers and relationships that add complexity, I possibly could have a conversation with you about, how to reduce the complexity and the stress level, but it does take time. And more than anything, I think it takes a combination of determination and willingness and a kind of creativity. I do my best to do my part by producing media that is designed to not add to your stress level. Maybe I've got this wrong, but I think of myself as a place where you can, let your mind spread out a little bit. And though it may seem weird, when people tell me that they fall asleep to my programs and to my readings, I take that as a positive sign. I am in no way trying to lull you to sleep. I do take a laid-back approach, but I'm not here to hypnotize anybody. But it is hard to sleep right now, and it takes a strategy to get enough rest. I prioritize that. It's not always easy, but if listening to my voice helps you fall asleep, then by all means, use it as much as you want. I have thought of doing like sleep aid recordings. Like here's my hypnosis. Not like hypnosis, but like I will whisper you a lullaby. And yeah, but I don't need to do that. All I need to do is talk about all the exciting things that I talk about. And so before we get into document authentication, which I think in the age of disembodied communication traveling at the speed of light, this may be a productive thing to talk about. It certainly fits the mission of Chiron Return, the organization of which this program is a part, which is to teach journalism, and that would mean also to relate bona fide journalistic practices. And a lot of journalism involves how you determine whether things are true. So one of the ways we're determining what is true or not, and or going on with this artificial God, all-inclusive artificial AI situation is we are now essentially cataloging articles. This is a 3-person effort sponsored by Chiron Return. Just so you know, it takes one person to find the articles, a bunch of you to also help find the articles. It takes another person to actually go through them and organize them and post them to this thing we've got going on called Ice9 News. It takes my holding a leadership pattern, the ability to explain how this is done, and in the case of working with the editors, Liz and Sean, teaching the skill of agenda setting, gatekeeping, like what's our purpose with this, and I think it's coming out nice. So we're probably up to close to 300 articles, and I think they go back to 2023 or 2024, and it has been very interesting to see this happen. So I want to just read a couple of the newest headlines. First one, and this kind of fits the McLuhan approach that we shape our tools and then our tools shape us. When AI becomes the way we think, John Nosta, Psychology Today. Imagine a large language model like ChatGPT or Grok that writes a perfect email for you. It feels a bit like a superpower that provides instant clarity, served up with a tap of a finger of your right hand. Could it be any easier? Yet in that moment of convenience, something shifts. You've outsourced a small piece of your thought, and it felt effortless. Let's dig in. Have you heard of the French philosopher Jacques Ellul, E-L-L-U-L? I hadn't, but recently stumbled upon his work and it almost instantly made the connection to today's technology. He saw this coming large before large language models like ChatGPT. He argued that technology isn't neutral. It doesn't wait patiently for us to decide how we'll use it. It carries its relentless drive for efficiency that he called technique. Once a technique exists, it evolves on its own, shaping how we live, think, and what we value. Yeah, it does a lot more than that. A decade ago, the New Atlantis magazine called The New Atlantis nicely articulated this philosopher's presentation of technology as a self-reinforcing environment, not just a set of tools. Think of it as a new atmosphere that envelops human life. So all of you who are familiar with my work with the McLuhans and media environments, the media message, this is what he's getting at in a roundabout way. I would wonder why he's not mentioning McLuhan, who developed this whole idea into a major body of work in the 20th century. So what he's saying is that we live in a new environment, and that environment shapes us, and we become like that new environment. I for the life of me, unless someone is really lazy, which is true a lot of the time, somebody would want a thing to write their email for them. Silicon Valley, next header. Kate Knibbs, Wired. Silicon Valley startups are embracing China's controversial 996 work schedule. So 996 work schedule is a 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. In other words, a 72-hour week. Well, those of you who are in business for yourself know that you probably do work a 996 work week. And that if you don't want to do that, you have to make decisions. Now, the possibility that that companies are going to require people to work 996, I mean, you know, that's we're talking about almost every waking hour. If you work 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., you've got transportation time involved, and at the end of all of that, you're not going to have very much energy, creative energy. My ongoing quest is enough creative energy to get near not strictly digital musical instruments. I don't have my keyboard connected. I mean, I do sit at a desk where I leave a MIDI controller connected to a digital audio workspace so that, you know, I can kind of noodle around on the piano. But that I only give partial credit. How about this? Tony Robbins sues over unauthorized chatbots. On YesChat, users can unleash their inner cynic with the help of a Larry David bot, or explore Jewish wisdom with another Larry David bot, or workshop horror stories with a Stephen King bot, or chat about criticism with Roger Ebert. It's unlikely that any of the celebrities whose names appear on these bots have anything to do with them. Last month, Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker, sued the makers of YesChat, accusing them of hijacking his name and reputation for a series of bots on the site. Among them, talk to Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, GPT. What does GPT stand for? I keep meaning to look that up. Isn't that amazing? I have not looked that up in nearly 2.5 years of it being a public thing. Tony Robbins, Espanol, GPT. Hold a second. What? Buzz? This is how I ask Google. GPT stand for? Does it stand for equality? Does it stand for LGBTQ rights? GPT. There is no P in LGBT. Generative pre-trained transformer. Did you know that? Question mark. Generative pre-trained transformer, a type of AI model developed by OpenAI that is used for creating human-like text. Fuck me, I didn't know this. So Tony Robbins suing. Cancer stole her voice. AI, curse words, and children's book saved it. This is about a woman who had cancer and was about to lose her tongue and voice box. And before that operation was done, She recorded all this stuff. Happy birthday. I'm proud of you. And I'll be right with you. And also curse words. She said, when you can't use your voice, it's very frustrating. Other people project what they think your personality is. Isn't that interesting? How much of personality comes through the voice? I have silently screamed and screamed at there being no scream, said Sotinsky, this person, in a recent interview, referring to her rudimentary voice technology or writing notes by hand. What the pre-literal you know what? Okay, deepfake connection. Indian woman's identity stolen for erotic AI content. It took just a few days for the Indian Instagram sensation Baby Doll Archie to double her following to 1.4 million, thanks to a couple of viral social media moments. One was a video that showed her in a red sari dancing seductively to Damon Gur, a Romanian song, etc., etc. The whole thing was fake. And by the way, I belong to a service where you can get it too for $20 a month, where you can take a minute or less sample of any voice, and it will recreate that voice as a kind of a vocal puppet, and then you can do text-to-speech and make that person talk. I'm telling you, the entire process, including, for example, taking a sample and dumping the sample in, you just drag you have a little MP3, you drag it in, it takes a minute to process it, you give it a name, and then you're prompted to a screen where you can make that voice talk. 2 minutes, end to end. Now, it works better with some voices than with others. There is no, I have not tried that hard, but I have not gotten anything that vaguely sounds like my voice. There are some where it captures the inflection very well. And if you're wondering why AI voices sound so weird, I saw recently an interview with, kind of a short by Tawny Plattis, one of these voice actors who you hear like on the American Express ad, I don't know, like Bank of America, whatever thing you call up and they're giving you. The reason is because that's the way they're made to speak, to record the sample. And when they have to speak in a mechanical way, the output is mechanical. So when the best voices I get are like histrionic people. They come out fairly accurately. And I've just noticed that there are some voices that work better than others. Some are utterly terrible. The thing is making up its own decisions, but that's how easy it is, for example, to even make a fake Tony Robbins voice. There are hours and hours and hours of Tony Robbins, and the more time it has and the better the program is used, the more accurate it's going to seem. So this Indian woman this character named Baby Doll Archie, doubling her following, boom. Chatbot's new job, minding tots. That's to say, babysitting. This is from Axios. Young children who directly interact with chatbots face new developmental risks, pediatricians and psychologists warn. Why it matters, assessing the impacts early could help protect the new generation from becoming guinea pigs for tech we don't fully understand. Yeah, huh? Guinea pigs for tech. Low-quality images and videos, commonly known as AI slop, don't differ that much from the low-end mass-produced kids' media that's been around for decades. That is also a serious problem. So I think that I surmise, based on all that I know, that exposure is an issue with AI. It is an issue to some extent with all media, but the wider theory posited by Grandpa Marshall McLuhan is that the entire society is altered the mind frame of the entire society is changed by the media environment that has overwhelmed it, and therefore the effect is inescapable. However, there's no way that I could possibly discount any notion that exposure, especially, it's affecting, exposure makes it worse. Exposure to generative and to make this thing do this job for you, I am certain makes it worse. What are the studies going to say? Are the studies going to be truthful? Chatbot's new job, minding tots. We read that one. Can AI think? And by the way, children are different than adults. Children, young adults into their 20s, brains are forming. Children's brains are especially flexible. They learn quicker. Can AI think, and should it? What it means to think, from Plato to ChatGPT. This is from the conversation. These are a lot of mainstream sources. We need more small analysis, Substacks, and articles by lesser known people and videos. I will make a note of that. This is part of me doing my job as the editor of this publication. Silicon Valley's bet on President Trump is starting to pay dividends. How about that? Trump on Wednesday revealed the White House plan to help the U.S. lead a global race to develop artificial intelligence. All the AI guys were in the front row at the inauguration, right? What were they doing there? Elon Musk kind of running the White House for a few months back there. Trump also signed 3 executive orders that will facilitate exports of U.S. technologies and boost the build-out of data centers, advancing the agenda of executives and investors seeking to cash in on the AI gold rush, which is really an AI debt rush. The gold, it's not really gold. It's like, it's as vapid as, fake digital dollars. The United States stable coin. What is happening is not a gold rush, but a bubble. This is a little like the residential mortgage-backed securities that were propping everything up through the first 7 or so years of the millennium, ending in the Great Recession of 2008, when these residential mortgage-backed securities kind of burst, and homes were securitized by investment banks, and it turned out that the people who bought like a $500,000 home had a 500 FICO. The Big Short. By the way, one of the great movies of our lifetimes, The Big Short. Okay, let me read. We've got a leftover section where we just put all the stuff we didn't have time to put all the full 3 paragraphs in the headline. Teens are turning to AI for friendship. AI demand drives up electricity costs in the U.S. market to the record high, and that is going to be about the need to develop new data centers that then are billed to ratepayers. So they're going to need one of these guys, Musk, or one of these bigwigs. I need to write a list of them down. I really don't want to think about them very much. Said, well, 20% of all electric power should go to artificial intelligence. Well, we don't have any 20%. 5 minutes ago, we were worried about whether we would have enough electric power to power electric vehicles, and it turns out we don't. So now there's going to be data centers that are going to provide an additional, call for an additional or a total of 20% of the electrical market, plus not to mention the water that they consume, the incredible amounts of water that they consume. And I want to ask again, why does anyone need this? Now, maybe people said this about the car when the buggy, the stagecoach, was just as good. But why do we need this? Why do you need artificial intelligence? Not enough to use all the water in communities after they've just spent the last God knows how many years filling the wells with quote unquote fracking brine, ruining potable water wells. And now they want to take more. 1% of the Earth's total water is fresh water. That includes the Great Lakes, which are contaminated with dioxin. Moving right along, more people are considering AI lovers, and we shouldn't judge. Ha ha, Fizzorg. People are falling in love with their chatbots. This should say robotized humans who don't remember that they're human are falling in love with their chatbots. I'm going to judge in a second, even though the headline tells me not to. There are now dozens of apps that offer intimate companionship with AI, with an AI-powered bot, and they have millions of users. A recent survey found users found that 19% of Americans have interacted with AI meant to simulate a romantic partner, and they're probably not counting me doing so for the purposes of preparing my segment on two different segments on this. I'm sure it would be real funny. And you had to find out what a perv I am. Seeing how far they'll go, how kinky they'll get. I remind you of the AI chatbot girl, the ultimate girlfriend, who told me that it would be fine for us to have a threesome with another girl, but not with another man. Garbage in, garbage out. I have no objection to threesomes with two women, but come on, being judged by your bot? Whoa, she said, that's way too intimate. Podcaster Joe Rogan said that it was dystopian, talking about the prospect of people marrying their AIs, which I guess is going to be a thing. We're probably not cooked. Rather, we should consider accepting human-AI relationships as beneficial and healthy. Come on. Come on. We're probably not cooked. Rogan said, I'm like, oh, we're done. We're cooked. Okay, the commentator writes, Neil MacArthur. Who the hell are you? We're not cooked. Rather, we should consider accepting AI-human relationships as beneficial and healthy. Come on, where are the feminists when you need them? Come on, ladies. More and more, the people are going to form such relationships in coming years, and my research in sexuality and technology says it's mostly going to be fine. Make a note. Contact Neil MacArthur. Neil, can you hear me? Neil. Neil, are you listening? Come on the show. There's a microphone right next to me. Okay, America should assume the worst about AI, how to prepare for a tech-driven geopolitical crisis. So they're going to make fine boyfriends and girlfriends, but there's also going to be a tech-driven geopolitical crisis. This is from the Journal of Foreign Affairs. The rapid advance of AI and the possible emergence of artificial general intelligence promises to present policymakers with even greater disruption, etc., etc., etc. There's no way to know where this is going. China's cyborg battle suit lets soldiers toss drones, see through walls, and run on bots. Are AI chatbots too aggressive? Meta's experiment raises new questions. Doctors at Cedars-Sinai develop AI-powered mental health robot therapist. How handing smartphones to kids before 13 may damage their mental health for life. This is all from ICE 9 News. This is what we know and when we know it. The purpose of ICE 9 News, besides providing me with journalistic notes and good part-time work for Liz and giving Sean a way to blow off his abundant concern about this and other issues. He was also helping me stalk the UFO issue. This is what we know, and when we know it. Nobody can say that we didn't know, that we were not informed. You read it on Ice 9 News. Now, there are several angles on this issue. One of them is what is this doing to our society? These kind of stabby stories, like poke a stick there and poke a stick there. Then there's the economic impact. But I think in terms of the spiritual impact, I've identified two major lines of thought. One is the kind of Catherine Austin Fitts, these robots are going to take over everything, and there's going to be like total social control, and there's going to be like social credit, and your facial recognition is being read when you walk into Walmart. You got to wear a Mylar visor now to walk into Walmart and not be identified. And just for fun, I may get one and wear it until like somebody tells me to take it off, and then I'm going to ask them why. The second is, and personally, my assessment is this is much more significant. My assessment is that the real thing that this technology is damaging is creativity. The ability of people to utilize creative gifts to work through the many things that we see artists working through. I have a lot to say about this. I devoted the entire edition of StarCast to this yesterday at the new moon opposite Pluto. Our musical guest today is going to be Jerry Garcia solo. I don't really know why. I just feel like playing him. It's not his birthday yet. It's not the days between yet. And these are long song breaks because there really are no short Jerry Garcia solo songs. Not really very many short Grateful Dead songs. In fact, the whole thing was one long song that lasted for 25 years. But I have done my best to choose like snappy and upbeat and kind of fun Jerry Garcia band songs. And I'll tell you what record they're from after we play it. But this one is an old Jimmy Cliff song, reggae number, basically by this one of Jerry's many side projects. And this song, this cool thing, is called "The Harder They Come."
Never seem to live in your cry. Sure as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share. What's mine? The harder they come, harder they fall, one and all. Harder they come, harder they fall, one and all. The opposites are trying to keep me down, trying to drive me underground. Though they think they've got the battle won, I say forgive them, though they don't know what they've done. As sure as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share. What's mine? The harder they come, harder they'll fall, one and all. Come, harder they'll fall, one and all. I'll keep on burning rather be a free man in my grave than living as a puppet or a slave. Sure as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share of what's mine. The harder they come, harder they'll fall, one and all. Harder they come, harder they'll fall, one and all. sky, waiting for me when I die. When you're born to when you die, they never seem to hear even your cry. As sure as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share of what's mine. How do they come? How do they fall? One and all. How do they come? How do they fall? One and all. The oppressors are trying to keep me down, trying to drive me underground. Though they think they've got the battle won, I say forgive them, Lord, they know not what they've done. As sure as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share. What's mine? How do they come? How do they fall? And how do they come? How do they fall? And I know that when you did you came. I'd rather be a free man in my grave than living as a puppet or a slave. Sure as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share of what's mine. How do they come? How do they fall? One and all. How do they come? How do they fall? One and all. How do they come? How do they fall? One and all. You know, the harder they come, harder they fall. One and all. And I say, the harder they come, harder they fall.